All right, we're live. We're back to the Soulman Podcast. Conversations we would have had anyway. Wade might be joining us soon. We're not totally sure. We want to thank Bolt and Mink Studios for their great employees and their outstanding coffee cups. Real people, real solutions, real big coffee cups. Right, Tony? I think that's the motto. Pastel pencil on the gram. She makes these outstanding. John, you would like this. My niece is a budding 12-year-old entrepreneur who she's making these for us. Nice. And she's making stickers. It's like her little business, and it's kind of cool. So this one's actually yours. Oh, so you get to put this, like, if you really want to be cool, you can put it on your car. Okay. And like everyone will know that now you're like the top echelon of Mankato residents.
That's what that means.
Yeah, so you get that.
Everybody knows it. That's good.
Everybody knows now you're going to be extremely cool.
Thank you. Very nice.
Yeah. So yeah, she's we're supporting her. Pastel pencil on the gram. I don't think there's anybody else. Thank you to Tony for doing an awesome job. Tony, he got his raise, and now we're going to figure out TikTok, right? Something like that. Anyway, so we have John Kind, right? Mm-hmm. Not Arn Kind.
Not Arn Kind.
Not Arn Kind.
Not Chuck Kind.
That's Popeye, right?
Yeah.
Because I know your brothers fairly well.
Yeah.
Do you have any more siblings, or is it just you guys?
I also have a brother, Dan, who works
him.
for a CPA firm up in the Twin Cities. He's the next youngest from me.
Okay.
And then I have a brother, Steve, who's Chuck's younger than Dan, Popeye. Okay. And then younger than Popeye is Steve, who's my youngest brother. Yeah.
So I know Arn and I know Popeye from this is going to sound nerdy, but Civil War camp.
Sure.
Yeah. So I get like him and Les Kopendrier and those guys did Civil War camp. Which
he beat you up out of camp.
I got chewed out a few times. Did you get
yelled at a little bit?
Oh yeah, like my bed wasn't made right, or I don't know, whatever I was doing. But
I'm sure that's what they did in the Civil War, so that's what you got now.
It was awesome.
Yeah, it's historically correct.
It was so cool to be able to stay over at Fort Snelling.
Sure.
And like pull guard duty with candles. Mm-hmm. That was outstanding. And I think I'm trying to remember, maybe it was Chuck that was trying, because like then they would have people try to like jump the wall, and we had to stop them and whatever. I think I took him into custody maybe. At somewhere around 1 o'clock in the morning.
Well, he's kind of used to that, being in custody.
Yeah, so. So anyway, but I know you through a number of things, through the Mankato and whatever else.
No, we've known each other from church.
From Christ the King.
Quite some time.
From way back in the day. Mm-hmm. You've probably seen us sitting up there as like little kids and bombarding Brad and Kathy.
And you playing guitar and singing in church and everything. And I'm sure I probably sung with you at some point or other at church. Although,
at some point.
You probably sing a little more new stuff than I do, Yeah.
Not quite. You haven't gone past the Kiwanis Songbook yet, maybe?
That's all the music I need is the Kiwanis Songbook. And obviously we know each other from Kiwanis.
Past president.
A past president of the Mankato Kiwanis Club. Yeah, absolutely.
So what other things are you involved in? You work at the YMCA now. That's your current
I'm executive director
position.
at the YMCA. I've been doing that for 12 years now. Okay. I'm also involved at the church. I'm co-chair with Sarah Pearson of the Stewardship Committee. Okay. At church, I'm on the board of directors for the Mankato Playhouse, right? Downtown here, doing our dinner theater. I'm the treasurer for the Mankato
Which I've
Playhouse.
been to, and that's outstanding.
It is outstanding.
I got to see, and I'm blanking her name. Garrett's wife,
Anastasia.
Anastasia, thank you.
Sure.
What was the play? It was like a couple of years ago now. It was like pre-COVID.
Well,
she's in a number of them.
Like the first year that we did the Playhouse, the first play was Jesus Christ Superstar.
Yep.
She was Mary. I was Pilate.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah,
but it was
I didn't see it either. I was in it, so I don't remember. I didn't see it. But she did a couple after that. Something I love you now change.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, I didn't get to see that one.
Yeah,
that was
she was very good in that.
Yes.
Anastasia's very talented.
She's outstanding. And Garrett,
her husband, leads the music at our church and everything. So,
I used to think I was musical until I hung out with Garrett, and then I'm like, I know absolutely nothing.
Garrett is amazing.
The coolest part about Garrett, and so if you're listening, hi Garrett, but the coolest part about Garrett is the first time I hung out with him, there was me, my sister Sarah, and Garrett. And I asked him to play some song. He's like, never heard it. I'm like, okay. I'm thinking at that point, it's like done deal. Like, we're not doing that. He goes, just sing it. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, just sing it. I'm like, okay. So I start like singing the melody. And he's like, oh, okay, I got it. Yep, it's fine. And I'm like 5 seconds into it, he got the entire song.
Yeah.
Bridge and everything. I'm like, wow.
Well, I was the president of Christ the King at the time that we hired Garrett. So I was part of the hiring process. Well, actually, I was the immediate past president, but I was still on the personnel committee. So I helped interview him, and he interviewed great because he's a great guy. Just
very personable,
very personable,
easy to get along with.
But we were hiring him as the musical director, and I just said, well, I think we need to hear you play. Can you play a little something for us? He goes, sure. And I said, well, let's go in the sanctuary here and let's play something. And he sat down and he said, well, what do you want to hear? And I said, well, what do you have music for? He said, I don't need music.
Yeah.
I said, well, how about Piano Man?
Yeah.
So he just started playing Billy Joel's Piano Man and played the whole thing through and sang it. We didn't even ask him to sing it. We just wanted to see if he could play. And right at the end, right after it ended, the next words were, "You're hired."
Yeah, so, absolutely.
I mean, the guy's really talented. Yeah. We're so lucky to have him at Christ the King.
That is really cool. And all the other people in the band that he's brought.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
they're Christ all the King music is fantastic.
Incredibly talented.
Johnny on the guitar and Steph singing the soprano and Mike on bass and
especially
Bill playing drums. It's great.
Being a guitar player, watching Johnny play guitar is like he's just I can't even understand what he's doing. I can appreciate what he's doing, but I can't even understand what he's doing.
Well, it's amazing what he's doing in church. He's doing a lot of the classical stuff and just, strumming guitar and stuff. But then he plays the classical stuff at recitals and everything. And then you go and you watch Neon live in a bar, and he's doing the Johnny Be Good with his guitar solo behind his head, standing up on a table and all that kind of stuff. He's an amazing guitar player. Yeah.
And what's interesting is he's such a and I don't know him that well, but he's kind of a softer spoken guy, wouldn't you say? Right? And then you see him, like you talk about, Johnny Be Good, like just rocking out on stage. It's like,
absolutely.
It's just, you can tell he's in his element. Like that's what he's supposed to be doing.
Yep. And he's a family guy though too. He's got 3 girls now. I think it's 3 girls. He just had his last, I don't know if it's his last one, but the last one he's had so far.
I thought I was having my last one at 3 too.
How many times have you said that?
Oh, all 4 actually. Yeah. Okay, so that was a side note, but okay, so you're involved with church. You're involved with. We talked a little bit about Kiwanis. We talked about the Playhouse.
Yep.
So you're a person that's been around in the community.
Sure. Yeah.
For your whole life. Is that
well,
accurate?
People ask me if I've lived here my whole life, and I say I don't know. I'm not dead yet.
So far up to today.
So far, well, actually, I moved away when I graduated from college. I got a degree in accounting, and I moved away to the Twin Cities and worked for a Big 8 accounting firm, Coopers and Lybrand. Lived up there for a couple years, and went from there. And I taught accounting then for 5 years, both at the Faribault Technical College and in Mankato.
Okay.
Did that for 5 years, and then I got old friend of mine, Bill Kazitza, who was at Taylor, called me up and asked me what I was doing, and I said I was teaching, and he says, are you a CPA? And I am a CPA, which means I can cut, paste, and assemble, take paper and do that. And he said, well, I want you to come and work for me. And I said, well, what are you doing? He says, well, I work at Taylor. And we had worked at Carlson Craft when we were back in college and stuff. And I said, this guy's gone nowhere. He's still at Taylor after all of these years, that poor guy. And I said, well, what are you doing at Taylor? And he says, I'm the chief financial officer. And I went, right. And he said, no, I really am. I said, well, what do you want me to do? And he says, I want you to come and be the assistant controller for Taylor. So Bill hired me. I was lucky enough to still have that connection with Bill and did the assistant controller thing for about a year. And then I was controller for a couple, 3 years, and then became a company president. And after that, I was a corporate vice president where I had about 10 company presidents reporting to me.
Wow.
So
yeah, so that was quite a role to
that
move
was
up
quite a role. Yeah, it was a lot of travel. A lot of travel, and that's kind of what I was doing toward the end of my tailor career, and that's one of the reasons I was interested in the Y job. I didn't need to do all that traveling anymore.
When did you marry Wendy?
It was on our wedding day.
Which was what day?
Actually, today is July 13th.
Yep.
It was on July 11th.
Yes.
In 1981, we celebrated our 40th anniversary on Sunday.
Wow,
So we've been
congratulations.
married 40 years, yeah.
That's
We
really
have
cool.
two daughters, Mallory, who is teaching at Franklin.
Okay.
She's a fifth grade teacher at Franklin. She's been there about 10 years. And then our other daughter, Emma, works for Mayo as patient access person. I don't know the exact name for it, but she does scheduling and all that stuff. And she's kind of the right-hand person for one of the surgeons here in town. So
you got to kind of be a proud dad then.
proud dad, proud father-in-law. Emma's married to Matt Norland. Some people know Matt in town, who's involved in a lot of different things. And my daughter Mallory is married to Luke Hulk, who works for. Is a really hard worker, works for a medical company up in Eden Prairie, but works from home here and everything. And then we have 3 grandchildren, 3 boys.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Cool. So now, like, explain to me, because I'm in the thick of like 4 kids. Like, my oldest is 8, my youngest is 1. Like, to me, that's just chaos, right? So now explain to me how it is to be a grandparent. Like, what was that transition? Was that something that was like a big aha moment to you, or is it just like, hey, we get to play with little kids now that are genetically similar to me?
Yeah, and I think you hear this story from a lot of grandparents. You know, it's great being a grandparent because, you know, first of all, you just love them to death. You know, I mean, it's part of you, you know, and it's part of your kids, and you can see that and everything, and it just really makes that special. But there's a reason that God, you know, put parents between grandparents and kids, because it's tiring. You know, when I'm 66 years old, and sometimes when I have my 1-year-old or my 3-year-old grandson, you know, a couple 3 hours is enough, and I'm ready to give them back. You know, just because it's a lot of work, because they're moving around all over the place and everything, and they want to be played with and everything, and they're great kids and everything. But it's nice to be able to step back and say, okay, I'm going home and going to bed.
My dad has a good line. He's like, I love to see you guys come, and I love to see you guys leave.
That's right.
You just got to get the timing right. You know?
Absolutely.
But our AC went out at our house like over the 4th of July.
Yeah.
And so we're out at Brad and Kathy's, and we're, you know, figuring this out there. And so I'm like, well, I mean, I'm not bringing kid. I mean, you know how this stuff goes, where you have little kids, you're trying to get them to nap and sleep, and it's 89 degrees in your house. I mean, that would just be a disaster.
Yep.
And so Brad's like, well, I mean, so you're going to stay here longer? Like, well, I don't know. Like, I don't. You got AC here. So anyway,
Yeah, I get that.
that is that's really cool, and it's fun, like, to watch like my kids interact with their grandparents, you know. And I'm very fortunate that I have all of my grandparents still alive, and Lisa, my wife,
nice
has
for
the
you,
majority of them still alive too. And so it's really cool. Like my 3-year-old Merrick, I'll bring him over to Jim and Sue's place, and they're my grandparents. They're 83. I think 83 now.
Okay.
So if they're listening and watching, I'm sorry for not remembering exactly, but I think that's what it is. But I'll bring him over there. Like, I'll go into work. They'll have him for a couple, 3 hours, and I'll come in for an early lunch and pick him back up and bring him home or whatever. And it's so fun. Like, they just feed him everything possible. I mean, if that whole pile of treats was there, they would just give him all of it. Like, you just do whatever you want.
Know, they don't have to deal with the sugar
Yeah,
high
there's
that
no
follows.
repercussions at all.
There you go. To them, every day is Halloween.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to get to a couple of questions for you.
Yeah.
So, obviously, a very community-minded person. You know, you do a lot of volunteer work. You do a lot of things that way. So, what makes you, you know, with Mankato, you know, what draws you to Mankato? What makes you want to take the time and effort to do the things? I mean, I just know about Kiwanis, and there's a lot of time and effort, especially being on the board, being a past president. There's a lot of time and effort there. And then to hear all the other things that you're doing, what makes you want to do that?
Well, I'll tell you who put that into me was Glenn Taylor. One of the first, I started working for Glenn back in 1985, and I started work in August, and the United Way campaign, took place shortly after that, September, October, and he called all us managers into a room and basically just told us that we were giving to the United Way. And he said, because the people that I want on my team are the kind of people that give to the United Way. And that's just an expectation. And he told us about how we have a responsibility to give back to the community that we live in. And he was really serious about it. And I just went, oh, well, that's really cool. And he just kind of said, that's just the way it is. And, he said it in a way that meant something to me. And I got the reasoning why it's important to give back to community and everything. And I just bought into that. And when I was working at Taylor, I was always encouraged to be on boards. When I was at Taylor, I was on the United Way board. I became president of the United Way board, and I was the campaign chair. This is an interesting thing. I think your dad, Brad, was he the first $1 million man? I was the third $1 million man. So your dad did the United Way campaign when the goal was $1 million.
Yep.
Then there was somebody in between, and then it was me. It was Jerry Hicks was in between. And then I was the third $1 million man.
Cool.
And I was campaign chair for that campaign. But just got involved in a lot of different things because of that. I was on the foundation board at MSU. They supported me doing that. That was a 9-year commitment that I did there. I've been on the Mayo. I followed your dad on. I think your dad asked me to fill his seat on the Mayo Foundation board.
Yeah.
And so I've done that. And Glenn and the people that he put in charge were always really good about giving me that time and giving me the ability to do that kind of volunteering. And I've been on a lot of other stuff other than that. But the reason was, it was what he believed in and what he preached. But he also practiced what he preached. He didn't say, do this, and now I'm going to make it hard for you to do it. He did it, and then he supported you while you were doing it.
Wow.
And what I found out was that I really enjoyed it. And one of the reasons I really enjoyed it is when you're volunteering, you meet a lot of other volunteers. And some of the best people in the world are volunteers. People that are good people volunteer for stuff. And I met a lot of people doing all those things. And in the end, that's really why I got the job at the Y, because I knew people in the community. And where did I know those people? I knew them from volunteering. And so, it's really an important thing, especially if you want to build your career and everything. I speak at the Leadership Institute through GMG, and we talk about volunteering and stuff. And I just really stress with them that, if it's really a good thing to do, not only because it's a good way for you to meet people and to make connections and all that kind of stuff, but it's really enjoyable. You find yourself just really enjoying it because of the people that you end up volunteering with and because of the good work that you do too.
I had a unique experience lately. So speaking of volunteering, so what I find interesting about that is there are some people that join groups or they volunteer or whatever because they have an expectation of something coming out of it, whether it's business or whatever it is. And I think that's the wrong way to look at it. And so there was a unique experience, and I am not perfect by any means, but this is a unique experience that happened just last Friday. So I volunteered to talk to the history majors at MSU, because there was a connection through this hockey league I was in and whatever. And so they're like, hey, you're a atypical history major. Most history majors, like when I told my dad, Brad, who we've mentioned a couple of times, he's like, well, what are you going to do? Go work in a museum? I mean, are you going to go to law school? Like what, what does history even do? What are you going to do with that? And so now own my own business, all this stuff. Like I'm a history and philosophy student that's very atypical from degree to actual practicality in life. And so I was talking to them, and I just really enjoyed it because I'm telling these students, like, look, I was there where you're getting questioned by a lot of people around you. Like, why do you really want to do this? Like, are you sure? Like, go do this or get this, and then you have a track to be successful, whatever successful even is. But so I'm doing that, and I just absolutely loved it. And this is like 6 or 7 years ago. Okay. I get a phone call about 2 weeks ago, and this gentleman says, "Hey, I'm so-and-so, and I'd like to meet with you." And I'm like, "Oh, cool. Sure. Yeah. Let's set up a time." And I didn't recognize his name. I said, if you don't mind me asking, how did you hear about me? Or you referral or whatever? He goes, "I was one of the people on the panel or one of the people that were, instrumental in putting that panel together." He goes, "You probably don't remember me because I met, 25 people that day." Mm-hmm. But he said, I always thought, "God, I'm going to get to a certain point and then I'm going to call that guy." So 6 years later, walking into that, not expecting anything, just enjoying the interaction with these students that are in the same, I remember being in their shoes not that long ago, wondering what in the hell am I going to do with my life?
Yeah.
And, I talked to this guy, and now he and his wife are clients of mine anyway. That doesn't matter. The point is like walking into volunteer opportunities and just having a giving heart, trying to provide value first and not wanting something in return, I think is so important because, like you had said, you're not necessarily going into being a member of Kiwanis just to do business with people. You're going in there because you believe in what the group stands for, or you want to volunteer over here because you want to help people or whatever it is. And so that's a long story, but I think to your point is giving first is way better than trying to go and take first, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think when you volunteer, you really want to volunteer, though, for things that really mean something to you. Because there's nothing worse than volunteering for something that you have no interest in. And,
I agree.
You talked about you don't do Kiwanis to make business connections and stuff, but you can do that through Kiwanis. But that isn't why I joined. I joined because it's an easy way to have a 1,500 calorie lunch every Monday, which is a good prelude to a nice solid nap on a Monday afternoon. So yeah.
So one of the other things that you do is that we didn't talk about is the singing with the quartet.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
What are they called again? Your group?
Quadraphonic. Quadraphonic. Yeah.
And you guys have done quite a bit with that. You've sung the national anthem at the Twins games I've seen. There's been a few things, right?
Yeah, we've done a lot of MSU hockey, done a couple Timberwolves games, a couple Lynx games. We just last week sang at our 4th Twins game, the Star Spangled Banner. That's really a big deal to me because I'm a huge Twins fan. Even through the bad times, I'm a big Twins fan, and it's just an absolute thrill to sing at the Twins game. That's a lot of fun. We've done our own. Christ the King has a holiday season where we do recitals and stuff, and our quartet did a recital there where we sang a lot of Christmas songs and stuff. And I really enjoy singing. I've done a lot of singing throughout my life. I still sing at some of the services at Christ the King. I love singing for Robin Hughes, our choir director at Christ the King. She's a wonderful director and just makes singing fun. My wife and I met singing. We were both in the Ella Street Singers at MSU. And I'd already been in the Ella Street Singers 4 years, and then this young lady walked in. I was helping with tryouts. I wasn't going to be in the group that year, but then this young lady came to try out, and I stuck around to be in the group one more year with her, and ended up marrying her. And we sang together through Ella Street. We sang together at the Guthrie Theater. We did a show up there, and did a Mary Players show together. And music's just another thing for me that's just fun to do, and it's God's given me the ability to sing, and we're all supposed to use the gifts that God has given us.
Time, talent, and treasure.
That's right. So I try to always say yes to those kind of things. So,
Yeah, you bring up Robin Hughes. So she was it's an interesting connection to her. So I was in her first choir class when she moved to Mankato.
Okay.
So I was in band, and I was jazz band drummer, whatever. Really loved that. I hated normal band. I just wanted to do jazz band, and let's just say there was a disagreement I wanted to do one and not the other, so I just said, I'm going to go do choir.
Yeah.
And so I get to meet Robin Hughes, who had, Mrs. Hughes at that point. And then we got to know there was like a good group of us that just really enjoyed, the whole stuff. And like we were on, I don't even know what it was called now. It was like the select choir thing. And
Sure.
the only time I ever made all Big Nine in anything was, or all conference.
You have a nice voice.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to make all conference in football. That didn't totally work out, but I made it singing, which whatever. But so now her nickname, and since I met her till now, is always Huey, which she hates, and that's why it stuck. So yeah. So anyway, Robin Hughes, hi. Good to see you, Huey. But
we're thinking about renaming our group. It was Quadraphonic, but now the three guys are John Peterson, who's our pastor at Christ the King, Jim Hatlilly, who was a teacher in the district, and then myself. So it's John, and Jim, so those three J's. So what we decided we were going to do is we were going to wear blue and Robin was going to wear orange, and it was going to be Robin and the Blue Jays.
You could do that. You could do that.
Something like that. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, so what you do, which I think is interesting, which has always intrigued me, is the theater stuff. So, and maybe I've told you this. I can't remember if I've told you this, but ever since I've been like probably in high school, I've always wanted to do some theater production, not as like a major hobby of mine, but just to try it out
To see what it's like to be in a show.
it'd be real. I think it'd be super fun.
Oh, it is super fun. Yeah.
I had and I've told the story a little bit on the podcast, but so this is first semester freshman year. I had an intro to theater arts class.
Okay.
Up at UMD in Duluth. So if you've already heard this, if you're listening, if you've already heard this story, then fast forward like the next 3 minutes. But so the interesting part was this is my first intro to theater. Never done it before, only watched it. And my final in the class. So this is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 a.m. So this is like the introduction to college.
Yep.
And my final scene is with this girl named Maria, who I wish I still remembered her last name because I would love to explain.
You once met a girl named Maria.
I did.
Yeah.
Our final scene, which somehow the theater professor paired us together. I don't know why. But the scene was that I was on a business trip, walking into a hotel with her, who is not my wife. And we were supposed to end. The last line was, "You talk too much."
Okay.
So let's you can use your imagination as to where the scene was supposed to go.
Yep.
So we take this script up to the professor and we're reading it and we're like, "What do you want us to do?" And she goes, "Well, take the characters. What do you think they're going to do?" And we're like kind of beating around the bush, like whatever. And so finally just say it out loud. And they're like, she goes, "Yep, go with it." I'm like, okay. So then none of the class knows this. We walk into final.
Yep.
And so that whole scene goes by and there's basically like, I'm making out with her on the bed and we go like, and scene. The whole class is just like, oh my gosh, what just happened? It was the only like 105% I got in all of my collegiate career. Apparently I did a really good job.
Could be so much fun.
Apparently I did a really good job. I'm like, this is college. This is awesome.
It's funny when you say that. It reminds me of a story. When I was at MSU, I did about a dozen shows on the main stage, and one of the shows was Man of La Mancha.
Okay.
And I was in the chorus. I was one of the muleteers. So there's the main guy, and then he's got all these guys that kind of are his sidekicks and stuff. And this was back when I was like a freshman in college, and we all had to have these 5 o'clock shadows and stuff. But I was so young that I had to put some black stuff in my white or my peach fuzz. But there was this one scene where the two main characters are singing, and we're all supposed to be behind them, and we're in this brothel, and we're supposed to be making out with women. Well, I had one of the gals that I had this scene with all the time, and I was supposed to be making out with her. But every time we got done, she'd have all this black stuff over her face. But neither her nor I seemed to care, because every single night was the same thing. She had to go off and wash that off. But it was funny because when we'd pull away, it was just funny because she did have all this black stuff over her face. So yeah, theater can be a lot of fun. Yeah.
So the only theater I've ever done was that, and I got a super A+. So
that's good.
Practically
that's good.
a movie
Maybe
star.
We should do some more.
That's literally the one thing that I would love to do. Not a lot, but just one time and just totally get into it and try it out.
Yeah.
I think it'd be super fun.
Yeah, it is super fun. It's a real high to be out on stage.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work to be in a play, though. I mean, it's a lot of rehearsal. It's a lot of time. It is almost as time consuming as golf, but not quite.
Which is, I'm bad at golf, so I don't know. But
I'm
yeah,
bad at golf, too.
Oh, yeah. We shouldn't even go there. But okay, so like we had talked about some of the other stuff that you have done. What are the other pieces that you do in the community? Like maybe talk about with the Y. Like there's obviously been a lot of changes with the Y from when, say, I remember going there with David Rivers back in the day to go play basketball all the way till now. I mean, the Y is definitely expanded. There's a lot of things going on. Like, explain a little bit more about kind of what you do there and what the changes are with the Y.
Well, it's interesting when I got the job.
Which is how long ago?
I've been there 12 years now, 12 and a half years. When I got the job, I really thought the main important thing to do was to make the Y a great place to be from a physical standpoint. And I did a lot of things to make it physically a nicer place, tried to clean it up, better equipment. We did a capital campaign where we fixed up the locker rooms and expanded the parking and did all that. And that was what I thought was really important. And that is important because membership is important, and you got to have some place worth coming to to make people want to come there. But what's really been fulfilling is the addition of programs that help people.
Okay.
And, some of the programs that we've added over the years, when I came there, we had the brother-sister mentoring program, the one-on-one mentoring, adults to kids, which is really one of the key programs, I think, at the Y, just coming next to a kid and saying, hey, you matter, I care about you, because a lot of kids don't have that in their life, an adult that tells them that, and that mentor can do that and just really change a kid's life. But we knew more kids needed help, so what we did was we started the school-based mentoring program. And basically, that wasn't a community thing where you went out and spent time in the community. It's where the mentors go to the school and spend 45 minutes to an hour with a kid over the noon hour, have lunch with them, talk with them, play a game or just talk or help them with their homework or whatever. So we started that program. That was modeled after a program in Sioux Falls. So Wes Kopendreier, who has done a lot with my place here in town, he was on our board then. He and I and Laura Bowman, who at the time was the United Way director here in town. We went to Sioux Falls and saw their school-based mentoring program and brought it back to Mankato. We added to that a mentors in waiting program or a group mentoring program where those kids who are waiting for mentors can get together as a group, and we do that on Monday nights. And Harrison Musser leads that for us, and they get together and experience that kind of caring more on a group setting. The boys right now are waiting for 18 months. If there's anybody out there that wants to really make a difference in a kid's life, contact the Y and ask about the mentoring program. Girls are waiting about 6 months. Boys are waiting about 18 months.
Wow.
But that group mentoring program was something that we started. We started the Live Strong program, which is a program for people that are suffering through a cancer diagnosis and gets them back where they can live strong. Get the right kind of exercise for the particular kind of cancer that you have, and have a group of people that you can be with, that a bunch of peers that are going through the same kind of things that you are, so that you can share your experience and not feel alone and be supported during that. That's another program that we started. We had a parent come to me a few years back that said, I have a daughter in Girls on the Run at the YWCA, and that's a wonderful program, and that is a wonderful program. It's a running program for girls, but it's really more about self-esteem for girls. But the parents said, but I have a boy too, and obviously the boy can't be in Girls on the Run. Can you find something or do something about that? Do something like Girls on the Run. So we explored, and we found a YMCA out in suburban Philadelphia that had this program called Stride. And STRIDE is an acronym for 5 different things. I can't remember exactly what it stands for, but it's Girls on the Run for Boys. And, so basically we tell these boys, and we kind of lie to them. We say, this is a running program. And we do run. At the end, they run a 5K.
Okay, cool.
But that's not really what the emphasis of the program is. The emphasis in the program is character development.
Yeah.
And we give out dog tags to these boys. And they love these dogs. We hear from parents all the time. They wear them to bed. They're, and basically they don't get a dog tag because they ran the fastest or they ran the furthest or whatever. They got a dog tag because they were a good teammate. Because they encourage their their friend who was maybe running a little bit slower, or talk to their friend who was having a tough day, or all that kind of stuff. So it really, the rewards went to those boys that were showing great character. And it's amazing. We've had so many parents come to us and say, "You just changed my boy. He's different. He gets what it means to be a friend now." And that's the STRIDE program. So. And those are just 3 of the programs that we've started. We started a number of other programs, but it's those things that really stick with you and make you feel good about going to work, and make you feel good about trying something new that is, effective in changing someone's life for the better.
And having purpose when you're going to work.
And have a purpose when you're going to work, and that's really been a joy for me. I worked for Taylor for 25 years and stuff, and that was a joy too, because we had a purpose there too. That the purpose was to make money, which there's nothing wrong with. Because by making money, you're supplying jobs for the people that work for you and work for the company, and you're giving them a livelihood, and you're giving them a good living and everything. But that's kind of an indirect good thing that you're doing. At the Y, I'm doing it directly, and I know that I can help someone today, and that, by giving some financial assistance. It's another great program at the Y. If you can't afford a Y membership, we'll take care of you and let you in for what you can afford. You got to give us your tax return, though. We're not just going to take your word for it.
Oh, good. I was going to change my membership. No, I think what is cool about resonating with what you just said is we had Nate Olson, who is the new boys Scarlet hockey coach, varsity hockey coach, just recently announced not that long ago. And he said these words that were really interesting. And he talked about, the kids that he has come through the program, whether it was when he was coaching squirts or mites, or all the way up to now when he's going to be coaching varsity. He says 99% of these kids are not going to go on to D1 college hockey or go on further than that. He goes, what we're doing is we're developing character with these kids. We're developing good human beings. And he said it, I'm going to screw it up now because I'm on the spot, but it's effort, attitude, and perseverance, I believe, are the 3 things that he said. And then I named that the episode. But it's so interesting how he's like, you can control these things. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing or what else is going on. It's like you can control your effort, you can control your attitude, and you control your perseverance. And whether it's through sports or whether it's through STRIDE or Girls on the Run or any of that stuff, it's like helping people understand that they have value, and they can, if they have a bad day running, or if they have a bad hockey game, or they accidentally score in their own goalie, which I did in intramurals and in college
Jim Marshall of hockey.
Oh, Kyle, I did that once. That was the greatest goal I've ever scored, except it was I accidentally tipped it with my stick, and it went right over my buddy's Josh Hansen's right shoulder. Sorry, Josh. I apologize. But I think what that is so cool when you can instill those types of values into somebody, whether they are a young adult or whether they're a young child or they're an adolescent, whatever it is. It's really fun to watch that happen because you can see the light bulb turn on.
Absolutely.
And it's so fulfilling to be able to do that.
And those kind of lessons, when they learn those kind of lessons, they learn it for the situation they're in, but it's the kind of things that they'll remember the rest of their life. And they'll probably pass on to somebody else. It's kind of makes you a little bit of a little more immortal if you're able to pass a lesson like that on. So
what was it? It was at Kiwanis. They were talking about this just yesterday. They were talking about how if you do something for yourself, it dies with you. If you do something for others, it lives on beyond you.
I think that was Matt's invocation.
That's exactly right. Yes,
and it was the guy that was nominated for a Nobel Prize. That.
I think that's interesting how that works, and I'm really interested just because of all the things that you do. of like, how do you keep that all together? Like, that seems to me like quite a lot.
Well, for one thing, my wife does a lot to help me keep it all together. You know, I've got a lot going on, but she keeps me.
Well, you talk very fondly of her every time I hear you, you know.
I love her a lot, and she does a lot for me, and she does a lot for our family. She's one of the most selfless people I've ever met, and I learn a lot from her. If I could be more like her, that would be a good thing. She really keeps me where I need to be, and probably, you know, if she would have been with me when I put down 4 o'clock Bolton Manx Studio, I'd know what it was when I looked at it.
She would have put everything on there.
Yeah. She would have said, "Well, that's what that is." But you know, she helps a lot with that. You know, there's another thing. You know, my son-in-law Matt Norland has a thing that he always does. He says, if you can do something in 2 minutes, if you get something that lands on your desk and you can take care of it in 2 minutes, do it right now. And he does that, and he told me that he does that, and since he told me that, I do that, and it just really keeps you probably where you need to be from a to-do list. You know, because if you do it right away too, it's fresh and you can do it quicker and all that kind of stuff. So that really helps too. Just, you know, grabbing those things. You know, there's something else too that that I think is really important, and that is get something done right away in the morning. You know, grab something that you really don't want to do, that you're kind of dreading, and grab it in the morning, get it done, because you know what? The rest of the day it feels like you got a lot done that day.
When I worked with Joe Michelitz and Jack Michelitz for a little while, that was one of the things that really stuck out to what Joe told me, is he goes, if you walk into the office and you think of the first thing that you don't want to do, he goes, do that right away. Because now the rest of the day is all the stuff you get to, you know, want to do. Right. And now it's not sitting over your head like this little rain cloud, like, oh my gosh, I got to do that by 4. I don't want to do this.
And you feel all day like you got something done.
I know.
Absolutely. I think that's a great piece of advice.
Yeah. And the other thing that he taught me was amazing. And this is a maxim that I cannot find a way around, is like we had talked about bringing value, right? And looking to give first. He taught me that don't focus. He goes, I got to remember exactly how he said it. Focus on bringing value to other people. Compensation takes care of itself. Look at helping other people. Look at making their lives better, whether it's through your work, whether it's through opening a door for somebody. You know, I think that's really, like, there was a gal the other day who was obviously struggling getting through this double set of doors. And so I walked up to her, you know, grab the door for her. She kind of looked at me weird, like, what are you doing? Like, I'm just trying to help out. You know, she said, okay. And then I grabbed the next door for her, and she was just like, you could tell it just was like a spark in her day that was like, huh, that was really nice. You know, that young man opened the door for me.
Well, you know, that is something that has become rarer and rarer, I think. Just that random act of kindness and doing something nice for somebody isn't as common as it used to be. So when it does happen, it gets a lot more attention. People think you're a weirdo if you do that stuff too much, too. You know, it's like, what's wrong with him?
I saw Fred Lutz the other day get out of his car in the parking ramp, and there was this piece of trash that was way out of his way.
Oh, I'm sure he went and picked it up.
I mean, he just went right at it, grabbed a few pieces of trash, threw it away on his way in, and he's just bouncing along doing that. And I saw that, and now every single time I walk out, like I was in Shields the other day, and at the bottom of the escalator, there was this wrapper or whatever, and all the people on the escalator walked right by it. I grabbed it, not because I'm trying to be the greatest person, but because Fred did it, and I think Fred's cool. And if like he's going to do it, then you know what? I'm going to do it too.
Fred was my next door neighbor for 12 years.
Okay.
So I got to know Fred really well. Fred would mow the parts of my yard that I missed.
I know Fred from, he golfs with my dad and has golfed with my dad for a very long time, 30 plus years. And Fred was always like, when I would come golf, which was I never did well, but when I would come golf with my dad's golf group, he was always one of the guys that would just go out of his way to be like, oh, hey, you know, Matt, right? Yep, yeah, it's Matt. Okay, well, you know, what are you doing? You're up in school? It's like, yeah, I'm up at college. What are you doing up there? History and philosophy. Yep. Okay.
Yep. Well, you know, I love his what does his license plate say? Mr. 7-Up or
Yes,
something like that?
yeah, what is it?
He's really Mr.
The Uncola. Or Uncola, I think is what it says, yeah.
Well, he's really Mr. Mankato. I
Yes,
mean, the
that's
guy
exactly right.
is all about Mankato. He's all about doing whatever he can to make Mankato a better place. Fred's a great example of what someone should attain to be. He's a giver and a
Yep.
doer and all that good stuff. Yeah.
He actually just recently talked to him, again, bringing up Kiwanis, but at a couple of Kiwanis meetings ago, ran into him and I asked him to be on the podcast.
Okay.
And when I said podcast, he didn't really know what I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So then I'd sent him an example of it, kind of like I did with you, just
Yeah.
like whatever. And he comes back the next meeting. He's like, "Hey, I'll be on that TV show of yours. Are you still doing the TV show?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." And he goes,
Yeah.
"Yeah, here's my card." I'm like, "Well, I already, we've talked on the phone. Like, I have all your info."
Yeah, but I got these cards I spent money on.
I know,
gotta
yeah,
give one
yeah.
to you.
Oh, I just love it. I really like him. But anyway, so
Yeah.
I think my biggest goal of having you on the podcast was just to talk about how community minded you are and how giving of a person of your time and talents and treasures that I've seen not only growing up. You know, when I was little, you don't really see that when you're at Christ the King, but you notice the people that are up being Pontius Pilate or, you know, doing that stuff or, you know, singing in the choir or doing that stuff. And so I think it's really interesting to be able to hear it from you as to kind of why and what your motivations are for that type of thing. And so I really appreciate you sharing that, because I think if we had a lot of people in town that had the same type of mindset of giving first, taking second, I think we would have a community that would be second to none. Not that our community's bad. I think our community's amazing. We have a lot of people that are really good people. But I think that attitude is, if we could spread that attitude even more, our community would be second to none.
Yeah, I think a big part of it for me too, though, is that it's what God wants us to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're supposed to be servant leaders,
Yeah.
and we're supposed to lead by serving others.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're doing that, you're doing what you're supposed to do. You know, and I think that's why we're put on this earth, is to help other people, to serve other people.
Yep.
I mean, I've read the Bible several times, and it says that all the time in the Bible, all over the place. It's like, you know, you were put there to help somebody. You were put there to serve somebody. Love your neighbor as yourself, and all that. And that means a lot to me, that I'm doing what God wants me to do. I mean, if you're going to please somebody, that's the right person to please besides your wife. You know, so yeah.
So I resonate with that, because one of the things that again resonates with me is in Luke when they and I can't remember all the chapters because I'm not the best at memorizing Bible verses, but to whom much is given, much is expected. I think is essentially what the phrase is and what the verse is. And I like, any time that I'm doing something, I always think about that. Like, even when, this is going to sound silly, but like, even when I go, like, I love to fish, you know that I have a serious fishing problem.
Addiction.
Yes, it's addiction. Bad. But there are worse addictions. But like, even like, with fishing, like, I try to do that to the best of my ability. I try to do like, when I'm a dad, I try to put my phone down. I'm not perfect at it, but I try to put my phone down and be as present as I can when I'm with my kids. I try to do that to the best of my ability. To whom much is given, much is expected. And so I take that to heart, because there's talents that I've been entrusted with, a brain I've been entrusted with, and a body and a life that I've been entrusted with, and I almost feel obligated. Like, you have to. Like, what, you can't do anything else, because there are gifts that you have to give, and it's just fun to go do that and watch, like I said, somebody else's light bulb turn on, or you just get to see, you know, making their day for no gain of your own, other than just the enjoyment of handing them, you know, even like Brad and Kathy instilled us when we were kids. We would go give gifts to kids that were, say, I don't know if they're technical term or whatever it is, but less fortunate kids. And we would go to their home and we would hand them gifts and watch them. Like, they don't get Christmas gifts, you know, and just to see that, like, it's inspirational when you get to do that. And like, the same thing with the Stride program and the Girls on the Run and all of that. they get to see as kids, they get to see what those values are
Yeah.
that can be so influential as adults.
Yeah. We talk about to whom much is given, much is expected, and, we maybe think of being given a lot by the good things that we have. But when you think about the fact that, some people don't have a roof over their head. Some people don't have enough food to eat. Some people don't have a change of clothes. Some people don't have someone that's going to take care of them. The simple things that we take for granted are so much. And, then you add everything on top of that. I mean, you and I have both been lucky, Matt. We've got more than just a house and more than just enough food to eat and everything. We just need to really be thankful for that and give back.
And it's easy to let your brain deviate from that
Yeah.
and focus on the things that you don't have or the things that didn't go right that day or the email that you got that you didn't want to have to deal with and
Right.
like all of that stuff. But to take again, to go back into fishing, like people ask me all the time, why do you musky fish? You cast 5,000 times before you get a bite. Like, why would you do that? And I tell them it's therapeutic. Like, I go out and I want to catch a fish. That's my goal.
Yeah.
But in all reality, I'm okay with watching the sunset, casting a topwater and listening to that thing plop 1,000 times to the boat, not catching a fish, and just enjoying being present and quiet and introspective, and just like that to me is so much fun. I can't remember why I was even going that direction, but so I want to. Because we're trying to keep our episodes not 2 hours long.
Okay. All right.
But for today, I want to tell you that I really appreciate you coming on.
Sure.
Because I think that you're a unique guy that does a lot of cool things, and you and I have known each other for a while. Most of which I was, maybe a little kid, adolescent, and doing stupid things with long hair.
You talking about me or you?
No. Well, it's funny. Like you bring up Les Kopendrier. I'm like, oh, I met him in the principal's office.
When he was the principal.
When he was the principal, yeah.
So what? And usually, if you're in the principal's office, that's not a good thing.
No.
So why don't you tell us about that?
Do you remember?
Matt?
Okay, I'll tell a quick
Let me ask
story.
you a question. Tell me about why you were in the principal's office.
I'll tell you a funny story about the first time I was in the principal's office. So, I went to Kennedy Elementary.
Okay.
Tom Oman was the principal. So, do you remember Tom at all?
The name sounds familiar. I'm not sure.
So I didn't see him past probably. Maybe I ran into him in like 6th grade or something like that. So I don't have a really great recollection of him, but I saw him a few times in elementary school, and it was like the 9th or 5th day or 6th day or whatever of 1st grade. I get in like this playground fight over like who's on whose soccer team or whatever with me and Ryan Pitt. And so we go in, and that was the first time I was in the principal's office was with Mr. Oman and Ryan Pitt, and I had to we wrote this whole thing, and I have the letter. And so when I present to the what's it called now? There's a program through the district, and I've gone and talked to like junior and senior high kids.
Okay.
I can't,
Is it the one that Kate Cox
what
does?
is it? No, it's I'm going to think about it in the next 1 minute. But anyway, I basically I'm like, so here's how my academic career started. And it shows like the letter, and I put it on the presentation of like, Matt did this and he pulled his hair, and then Ryan hit him, and then they, whatever. I'm like, so I was in the principal's office like the 5th day of 1st grade.
So that's how you met Les Kopendrier.
And then I met Les Kopendrier like the 12th day of 6th grade at Franklin. And so, yeah, we got to know each other. And then I went to
You weren't in my
Civil
brother's class, were you?
I was.
Oh, you were in Aaron's class?
He was the one. So I didn't like school at all. I thought school was boring. Like I'm not a conformist. I'm not a person that sits in a box and sits quietly and like raises their hand nicely and writes on the board. And my Jennifer Brozick, Jennifer Anderson now, she does that. She's like, she always got like gold medals for, attendance and everything. And I'm like, school's dumb. Your brother was the one who I completely credit was the one who turned on my learning, my love for learning. So even to this day, like I listen to podcasts about random stuff, and I'm always consuming stuff, just wanting to learn all the time. And it was because of his enthusiasm in talking about things like the James Younger Gang and like, the shootout in, not Faribault, it's
Northfield.
It was Northfield. Thank you.
Yep.
And like talking about that and the Civil War and like all of these things.
Yeah.
And so his enthusiasm really sparked that for me.
Plus, he had snakes in his class.
Oh,
and
yeah, he had all the cool
iguanas
stuff.
and
Yeah,
all
yeah.
that cool stuff.
Yeah. So he also told me my spelling wasn't really great and still is awful. I tell people all the time, I think it's selfish to spell one word only one way. So anyway, so that was, I was in the principal's office. I can't remember why I was in the principal's office with Mr. Kopendreyer. It was something dumb, whatever. But yeah, I always bucked the system enough to be in the principal's office, but not enough to go to jail.
You probably can't remember because there was too many possible reasons. And you can't pick one out.
There's too many. The frequency was high, so it's just like throw a dart, whatever.
Who knows which one that
Who
was?
knows which one? But I really want to thank you for coming in
You bet.
and talking a little bit and telling the story a little bit about the volunteering you do and why you do that. And so you're going to enjoy that sticker because now you're going to be in the Cool Kids Club.
All right.
And we'll have to have, at some point, maybe have you back and talk about some of the other stuff, new programs and things that you have going on.
That sounds great. I appreciate you asking me, Matt.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, we'll be done, and bye, everyone.